Welcome back to JBS's live celebration of Israel's 70th birthday, Yom HaAtzmaut. And again, I continue to be joined by Thane Rosenbaum, novelist and director of the Forum on Law, Culture, and Society, and Brooke Goldstein, founding executive director of the Lawfare Project. Before we go back to that couch, any thoughts you had to some of the things that Jerry said?
Yeah, I did. One of the things that moved me the most is when you talk about, the adage, the light unto nations. And I always think about how lucky the world is to have Israel. And everybody quotes the technological innovations, but Israel and Zionism, frankly, I think is the most progressive liberal value that there is out there. And it's, to me, I don't understand how the progressive movement has engaged in such a perversion of reality. We're talking about a country where it has the most female entrepreneurs in the world. It has the highest percentage of working moms. I think 67% of moms with 4 or more children are in the workforce. The highest percentage of recycling plastic. 9 out of 10 houses have solar panels. These are progressive values, environmentally friendly, pro-woman. And yet there's been this misdirection. And everybody talks about the PR problem, but frankly, I think it's what you highlighted, which is the unity problem. And why does it take a tragedy like we saw in the Gaza conflict to bring the Jewish community together, to be unified, to be proud of our Zionistic values, to be proud at how amazing and liberal and progressive and fantastic we frankly are?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, some of the things Brooke says, I know you've said as well, and I say this over and over again. Here you are, a champion of liberalism, and yet because you defend Israel, there are progressives who have thrown all kinds of tomatoes at you, verbal and...
I wish it was just tomatoes.
Yes, and they've said terrible, terrible things about you. But when you hear Brooke talk about the nature of Israeli society, any thought comes to your mind?
Well, yes, many thoughts. She's right. The perversion is perverse. You have, a kind of a demonization that really is anti-Semitic in nature, because there really isn't any other way to explain it. You're also, we can add on to Brooke's list, Supreme Court justices who are Arabs, Miss Israel who's Ethiopian. I mean, think about what other country can claim this.
By the way, there are no gay parades in the Arab world.
No, and you're talking about, if a rock star comes to Tel Aviv, he or she is going to have an audience made up of women who are wearing all kinds of different clothing, and there will be homosexuals in the audience. There's an incredibly vibrant gay life, of course, we know in Tel Aviv. And is there a more progressive society?
No.
Anywhere.
Right, no.
And yet, the way Israel is characterized, misrepresented as if it is some colonialist, apartheid regime, is just utterly disgraceful. And then the other thought that occurred to me in listening to Brooke speak, and then we were now joined by not just Jerry, but Abe Foxman is now sitting with us, and you're going to introduce him as well, is that the good thing that we should all think about is the talent pool that continues to revitalize itself on behalf of the Jewish people. I mean, this just alone.
It's amazing.
Look at
yes, by the way,
look who's sitting here. This isn't.
Sloan, give me a 2-shot of the couch now.
Let's take a look at the. It's not.
I have 2 giants sitting side by side.
Yeah,
by the way, it's my show. Let me introduce them. I said a moment ago when I introduced Jerry how lucky I am because I get to be with these extraordinary people. You should know that Abe Foxman has been extraordinarily kind to me, to JBS, and he has sat with me hours and hours and hours as we try to understand how we can make JBS a more effective means of communication and information and, quite honestly, inspiration for the American Jewish community. And Abe has been a very, very dear friend, and he joins us now for the 70th anniversary. Thank you for going out of your way to schlep over here and be a part of this.
How many times did you say Shechianu today?
make the point.
You know what? All these wonderful things you're saying and talking about Israel, I just want to make one adjustment. Let's talk about them because that's who we are, that's what Israel, not because our enemies and those. Let's not talk in the context. Let's talk and celebrate. All the things you said, I want to celebrate. And that to me is why I ask you how many times do you say Shechiyanu? I think, B'chol Dor V'Dor we say, in our turn, every day we should say Shechiyanu. You're too young. I'm old enough to have experienced both Auschwitz, the Shoah, and the rebirth of Yerushalayim, Jewish independence, Jewish sovereignty. Wow. I think Shmuel Rosner wrote somewhere, as I read today, we are the luckiest Jews in history. And we are the luckiest Jews in history, that we can sit here today and kvel and shep naches and make a bracha about a miracle. Whether it's 50, it's 70, noch besser. There are a lot of things we can worry about, even on our 70th. But still, this is the one day. This is the one day that I want to talk to Hillis, V'Shvachas, not because there's an outside world that doesn't understand and doesn't care. So Shechiyanu.
Shechiyanu. So tell me, does the fact that it's 70 have any special meaning to you?
No.
It's just the fact that here we are still.
The truth is that the 10th, to me, I was in Israel on the 10th, and that was more dramatic. I guess after the 67 war, that was a dramatic moment, year. 70 is nice, but okay, it's another opportunity to celebrate, to count on your fingers, the miracles, the accomplishments. We have 364 days to talk about the threats, the tzores.
Today's a family celebration.
It is a celebration. That's exactly what it should be.
Yes. So, I asked Jerry, I'm asking you. You've spent a lot of time in Israel. You've been intimate with many, many important people and just average Israelis. You and I have been in hotels together. We know what it's like. Do you have one or two special memories that somehow stay with you?
It's like Jerry said, it's almost impossible, the one and two, but for the moment you can find the one and two. And so I'll follow in Jerry's footsteps, and I'll give you two. One was very personal, and the other one was more the beautiful Israel, if you will. First time I went to Israel. I was 18, graduated high school, graduated yeshiva. I went on a Karen Kayemet scholarship. I saw Russell was here. And I could not bring myself with this idea that on Monday I'm in New York and on Tuesday I'm in Israel. And I went to Israel on a SS Zion, 2 weeks to get to Israel. There were 400 of us, high school graduates, college kids, run by the Student Zionist Organization. And every day we got closer to Israel and the excitement and the emotion. And half of us were Zionists and half of us were there because the parents had enough money to send their kids for a summer vacation somewhere, and it was nice to go to Israel because it was chaperoned and everything else. Arriving in Haifa, seeing Israeli soil, seeing the flag, seeing the sailors, and for the first time, embracing family. We lost all our family. And I had the chus to embrace my uncle. After the war, he went to study in yeshiva, 1935, even before my father, was able to afford to see his brother. So that first visit of coming close to Israel, understanding Israel, loving Israel, nothing, and I've been to Israel, I don't know, 50, 100 times, nothing compared, nothing compares to the emotions and the memories to. The other time is part what Brooke and Thane were talking about, what Israel is all about. I had this horse to go to Ethiopia when Haile Selassie was there, to interact with then the Falashas. It wasn't popular. We had to go into the scrub, et cetera, and plead with Selassie. And so the miracle started happening. And several years later, Ethiopian Jews began to arrive. And the next moment that I will never forget is there were issues. Young kids were torn overnight from a world that was black to a world that was white. And I remember we went to the Ma'abara, we went to the absorption center, and we asked the social service workers, what are the problems that you have? And one of them said, these kids, now they come to this white world, and even the dolls are white. And you're not old enough to remember, you should be. Cabbage Patch dolls had black dolls. Mm-hmm. And I remember I called Greenberg Company in Connecticut. I said, I need 1,000 black dolls with Stars of David. And I'll flew them, and we negotiate mechas, customs, etc. I will never, never, never forget the scene in this absorption center in Mavaseret Zion with this truck of 1,000 black Cabbage Patch dolls with the Star of David being handed out, and I had my kids with me, to these kids who all of a sudden smiled for the first time. And its essence, this is Israel, the homeland, this is the absorption, this is all the issues that you talk about in this one moment. And it's a beautiful moment which I will never forget.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is gorgeous. Incidentally, I also, is there any hero for you? Do you have any Israeli figures, be they politicians or not, who somehow touched you especially?
Yeah, two.
Who are your Israeli heroes?
Two. Begin.
Because?
Well, because that's what I was raised on. Ironically, not for now, for another time. The reason we didn't go to Israel is my father was part of the Irgun in Austria in 46 to 48. The irony of all kinds of history, that's why we didn't go there, we came here. But yeah, I was a Beit Ari. I knew what Begin was all about. To me, he was a hero. I was kicked out of Yeshiva Flatbush twice because I went to meet him at the airport, okay? So and when he became prime minister, wow. He was a mensch, a decent, warm, caring diaspora Jew who loved the Jewish people and was the leader of Israel and took phenomenal decisions. The other one was Arik Sharon. I had the privilege, this horse, to have a personal relationship. And as tough as he was another gentle human being whose courage and love for the Jews. And so I was privileged. I guess the other one, Yitzhak Rabin. Not easy to have a personal relationship because it was difficult for him. He wasn't comfortable in many social situations. And the one meeting I will never forget was the last state dinner in the United States. Well, I remember we walked through the line, and my wife said to me, "Why don't you talk to him?" And I said, "Because I know he hates it. He hates these." And I said, "If he wants to talk to me, he'll talk to me." And then, sure enough, about an hour later, one of the security guards comes over, and he says, "The Prime Minister wants to talk to you." And we went over to a corner, and he said to me, "I will never forget that when I was being attacked as capo and as Nazi, etc., you were the only one in the American Jewish community who stood up." He says, "I will never forget it."
Mm-hmm. That's lovely.
And that's a moment.
Priceless, yes.
That's a
forever moment.
And when I went to the funeral, and Leah Rabin said to me, "If you're staying, come to Shiva." I came to Shiva. She took me in the side and says, "You know what? The day that he was murdered, assassinated, he talked about your courage and standing up." Whoa. What is chus?
Well, Mazal Tov. I won't give you two. You got one. Do you have one figure, be it political, cultural, whatever, who somehow is a hero to you, the state of Israel?
Yes, and I will say that
See, I'm retired.
may not
He's
be
still
may not be. Well, doesn't matter. Yes is the answer, and it was Zichron Levarcha Shimon Peres.
Interesting.
I had the real privilege and honor to get to know him, and to get to know his family. And I look at his history from his support of Ben-Gurion, and how he changed through his life, and you saw dramatic change. But then getting to know him through his role as president, and then post-president, and the way he loved young people was unbelievable. There were 2 or 3 times where I was with him that my daughters were in Israel, and for some reason they could not come with me, and he scolded me. And the one time he did, and we were in a group to see him. He came. I said, "I want you to know my daughter is here." He was supposed to go up to the podium and speak. He stopped. He pushed others out of the way to get to the 3rd row so he could hug my daughter. And I truly believe, and it goes back to something Brooke said, and I believe it's one of his most profound statements that really stays with me, which is, he said, our greatest strength as a Jewish people is our greatest weakness, is we are a people of dissatisfaction. Our dissatisfaction drives us to heights that just haven't been seen and won't be seen in this world. And our dissatisfaction tears us apart.
An extraordinary human being. Brooke, do you have someone who somehow is for you a hero?
Well, Golda, of course.
Of course.
I just said to Thane, I'm laying dibs
Yeah.
on this poster here that I would like
It's
signed.
yours. It's
Thank you.
yours.
I want to say there's a story, Abe, I don't know if you know this, but you played such an instrumental role in my life. When I was 23 years old, you took a meeting with me. You didn't know me. I called your office up. You took a meeting. And I said, I want to make a movie about child suicide bombers. You said, kid, good luck. It's going to be hard. I don't know. You don't know the movie industry. But you know what? If you have the courage to do it, take this book. And you gave me a book that was published by the Interdisciplinary Center in Herzliya Patuach. And they were my first interview. And it's funny that you tell your story about getting kicked out of yeshiva, because I missed so much school at Cardozo, which is yeshiva university. I also got kicked out of my human rights and genocide clinic class. So for somewhat, we have a little bit of a parallel story there.
Yeah, because I went to meet a fascist.
And I went to meet a terrorist.
Hero.
I'll be.
By the way, I should let people know. We did a show already that's going to air tomorrow night for an hour and a half talking about Israel on its 70th anniversary. And some of this I've asked you before, but people, not everybody may see it. So even if I'm asking you to repeat yourself, I don't care. Hero.
Abi Iban.
Abba Iban.
For the reasons why the Israelis didn't embrace him is the reasons that I do embrace him. Well, first of all, I'm of
Tell
the.
everybody who he was.
Yes, I'm good. I'm about to
Assume.
do that. I'm a storyteller. Abe, give me some credit. I'm gonna set it up.
You said it for tomorrow.
I'm gonna set it up, Abe. You and I've done this many times before. Abi Iban was tapped by Ben-Gurion very early on during the founding of this country to serve as a kind of English-speaking voice. He was British. He was Cambridge educated. He was an incredible writer, and his command of the English language was absolutely unparalleled. It was simply unparalleled. We, in the United States, actually, at the time that Abba Iban was serving in various diplomatic positions, we didn't have in the United States anyone quite as articulate in the English language as the Israelis did. And here he was, based in Washington, based in New York at the United Nations, in a very calm, eloquent voice, sounding truly the King's English, defending Israel in front of the United Nations. You know, again, a really young country, you know, an incredibly young country. And to have that level of poise and polish, and as a, you know, I'm as an American Jew, and admittedly a bookish American Jew, for whom writing mattered, you know. And as I said, I know from the Israeli perspective, they saw him as some English intellectual, and so that he didn't fit the pioneer spirit, the fighting Sabra. But I thought he was everything, and I had seen him speak many times in college and high school. My parents, we went to a synagogue in Miami Beach this year, and I was always found him just so incredibly remarkable. And it was precisely because I was even aware that he wasn't being fully embraced. I remember once I went to Israel with Malcolm Hoenlein a few years ago, and we visited the foreign ministry, and I don't know why I was so surprised, I shouldn't have been, that there was a bust of him. Of course there should be one. But I remember feeling a sense of elation that he was, in fact, respected and remembered. So yes, I'm picking the guy that doesn't fall on the list very often, but he always meant a lot to me.
I have a memory recollection of Aubrey Abba Ibn. In my early years, we do radio and TV interviews with Arnold Foster when he was the associate director of the ADL. And we interviewed Abba Ibn on the 25th anniversary. It was before.
And was he in government at the time?
Yes, he had some position. And during the interview, somebody stopped, because it was a videotape, and he gave him a note. And he said, Truman just passed away, and there's ABC, NBC, and CBS outside waiting for my comment. And so he said, can you wait a minute? And so we said, sure. We sat, took a piece of paper, wrote a few notes, stood up, the cameras came in. It was one of the most
Yeah, I know.
historic eulogies you could imagine. I have that little Hebrew note of the 10 words that he wrote.
Show it to me one day.
Brilliant, brilliant. Wow, yeah.
Did you like him?
Yes.
Yeah, I
But
liked
in
him
a
very
different way. It was a respect.
Yes.
I was much younger, you
Yes,
know,
I
there
was
was no
also very-
relationship.
I was lucky to have a
But
relationship.
the sense of pride that we had when he spoke, wow.
Also, it's interesting to me, and I forget what your background is, so you'll add this in a moment. You're a survivor.
Yeah.
You're second generation. You're third generation. Was your family spared?
No, we lost 72 members of our family in the Holocaust.
One generation or two generations?
My grandparents' families.
Okay, so you're also third generation.
Correct.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Would you talk for one moment, as someone who did survive the Shoah, and there was no Israel, and you know, David Harris talks about the difference between May 8th, 1945, when the war ended, and 3 years later, May 14th, 1948, and there's a Jewish state. And what that must have meant to people who survived the Shoah, or whose parents did, or even whose grandparents did. And that's an element here. And I don't think any of us here would argue that Israel is legitimized because of the Shoah. If there was no Shoah, there should be a Jewish state. But it's also inappropriate to act as if the Shoah was not a factor and somehow is not a response to. So I want you, as a first generation, to respond, then Thane, and then Brooke.
Okay, so give you two reactions, one from then and one from now. We were in DP camps in 1948, May 14, 1948. I was 8 years old. I was coming back to Yiddishkeit. I learned to be comfortable being Jewish, etc. And I, you know, it's in the house, because my father was, you're good, Israel, you know, was something serious. Bricha, the illegal immigration was serious. So it wasn't, out of the blue, but I was still 7, 8 years old. I see in front of my eyes now the dancing. We were in a military camp. We were in American zone, the displaced persons camp, and Linz was a military camp. First an Austrian, now American. And the horas and the singing and the celebrations in the center of the camp, were phenomenal. And so, then people started leaving. Okay. Fast forward, I was recently in Madrid looking at an Auschwitz exhibit, of all places, done by a Basque family for a profit corporation, talking about bringing it to New York. And so I spent a couple of days with the Basque families, and they were trying to learn about Jews and Judaism and understand. And somewhere in a conversation, they said they went to Israel, and they said for the first time, now that they did Auschwitz, they understand Israel and the Jews. Non-Jews do not understand why we're so hung up on Israel. Even nice people. I'm not talking about people who don't like it. Just don't understand. The Irish, they love Ireland, but they don't care. Italians love Ireland. They don't understand. And this family, the three of them said to me, you know what? The Spaniards who come to see Auschwitz and with whom we sit and talk, all of a sudden understand the significance of Israel for the Jewish people. So not only survivors, not only us, but there's a lot of what if questions that we cannot answer. But sure, it is so significant, more significant, I think, to survivors than many others.
I saw that exhibit. It was one of the most moving exhibits I've ever seen done on the Holocaust. And when I found out it was done by non-Jews who, as you said, prior had no connection whatsoever.
And 44% of the visitors are not Jewish.
And young. And they were so
20 to
surprised
40.
how young everybody was that came. Yeah.
By the way, I said I was going to ask the two of you, but I've got a message from the control room that I must move on. So we're going to move on. We may come back to this question, but we're going to move on. And I want all of you to listen to the next video clip we have, because this is a number of people you all know who speak about what the 70th anniversary of Israel means to them. I'd love you to listen, and then I want your reaction to them. So this is some of the people you know very well responding to what does the 70th anniversary mean to them. Here we go.
The state of Israel, born in 70 years ago, reborn 70 years ago, we should say, the ancient state reestablished, and all the predictions of its destruction, all of those who even in recent years talked about its isolation, talked about it that it wouldn't be able to survive, that the United Nations would turn against it, that all of the countries, only the United States would stay within, and eventually they would abandon it. Look at the countries of the world, India, Asia, China, Asian, African countries, all running to Israel, seeking Israel, Arab countries, unprecedented. We visited many of them, and they all talk about how much they want Israel, Israel's technology, Israel's security, Israel's cover for them. Who could believe it? It's such a miracle that we take for granted, and we can't, we shouldn't. Because when you take the miracles for granted, they don't continue.
70, it's amazing. I remember as a child hearing from my parents about the incredible miracle that in our lifetime there was the state of Israel, something that people prayed for and saw the reality come into focus. But for me, it's exciting, it's exhilarating, it's exuberating, it's a miracle, it's something never to be taken for granted. It's a place like no other place in the world, and it's special, it's magical, and it's ours.
It's really exhilarating. It's making me very proud, very grateful for all the thousands upon thousands of Israeli casualties, of the, I would say, the sacrifice we had to make. The fact that we have come out so well, in 70 years, which is a short period in history, we became a real strong country. And we are strong strategically and militarily, but also economically, technologically. And I think we also are in a culture. Israeli culture today, you can see it in Hollywood or Broadway. Israel cuisine is famous all over the world. Israel belongs to the entire Jewish people. So I think all of us should feel very, very proud today.
It means that we're still very young. It means that there's a lot to make sure, there's a lot of work to make sure that this country will survive. So we have to keep it. We have to make sure that it survives. And we have to make sure, treat it like a 7-week-old baby. Spoil it. Give it food. Cajole it. Caress it. That's a 70-year-old country. It's a baby.
The milestone of 70 years is, of course, arbitrary. What I can say is that I grew with my country. I remember how it looked like 65, 67 years ago when I became knowledgeable about things a little bit and I could express myself. It was a small country, a poor country, a very dependent country. And today, it is an example to many other countries. I think that you cannot compare Israel of the beginning to Israel of today. I don't believe that my parents would recognize their own country today. And I'm proud about the achievements of the country, despite of the wars we had, despite of the obstacles, despite of the things which I hate, like the occupation and the ongoing conflict with the Palestinians and the danger of becoming a minority in our own country. But I believe that we will overcome this obstacle. We will find solutions, we will have peace, and we will assure a Jewish majority and a democratic state forever.
We are back. I'm joined by Abe Foxman, Jerry Silverman, Brooke Goldstein, and Thane Rosenbaum. A few moments ago, we heard a whole group of people just respond. Did anything you hear touch you?
It's more than what I heard. It's that you succeeded in bringing the Jewish community together.
That's so sweet
You know,
of you
when
to
you
say.
take a look at who's there and who came and who's coming, it's the left and the right and the middle. It's the Orthodox and the, so that's the beauty. So Israel did it, but it did it through you. And that I found that more significant even than the words, as beautiful as they were.
That is so kind of you to say.
It's true.
We're going to stop right there. On our phones now, a person you just saw, if you were watching that promo, you saw our website, and you saw at the top of the website somebody who is often on JBS. He's the preeminent Israeli scholar of Arabic culture, currently at Bar Ilan University, Dr. Mordechai Kedar. Mordechai, thank you for joining us for a moment.
It is my pleasure and my honor, Rabbi Golub.
Thank you. Mordechai, you're an Israeli. Where were you born?
I was born in Israel, in Tel Aviv, 65 years ago.
All right.
My parents are from Poland, but I learned Arabic and the Islam because I loved it. And ever since the age of 13, I'm in this field.
I understand. Mordechai, what's it mean to you as a Sabra celebrating Israel's 70th anniversary?
Well, it's actually the birthday of myself. I don't consider myself as only the person. I also consider myself as a part of a state of the embodiment of the Jewish people on its own land. This is why I celebrate tonight my 70th birthday, although I personally am not yet, but as part of the country, part of the state, I am.
That is a lovely, lovely answer. All right, one more question. Mordechai, what is it that makes Israel so special and which you wish all American Jews understood better?
Well, Israel is actually a miracle, whether we admit it or not. If we take the situation of the Jewish people when the Zionist organization started to function at the end of the 19th century, Jews were scattered. Jews never had an awareness of a nation. Jews were persecuted. Jews suffered from pogroms and holocausts. Jews didn't have even one language to combine them because Hebrew was
12.
a language of the base Midrash, not a language which you can use. Jews actually took care of everyone, took care of himself, his community, his place. Now you have to instill into their souls the awareness of togetherness, the awareness that they have a country which very, very few of them ever visited, but they have the right to inherit. And they now are going to defend themselves after 2 millennia, which Jews never defended themselves, never had the power to make an army or police or to have a sovereignty. And this is, when we compare Israel of today, the awareness of the Jewish people as a nation rather than communities, the status of the Hebrew language, which came out from the museum and became the language of the science, the language of the street, the language of the garage, and even the language of the thieves. It is a miracle. That what happened to the Jewish people, whose biggest project is the state of Israel. Because many took part in, even if they are not Israeli citizens. 1,400 American Jews came to fight in Israel without staying there, usually, only to help the resurrection of the Jewish people on its own soil. Hundreds who came from Europe, from the same thing as we call Mahal Meguyasei Chutz La'aretz, those who were recruited from abroad. And this is another miracle, which Jews came in order to help each other. And in Israel, I think that the biggest miracle which happened is not only that Jews came out of exile came out from the Jews. Because in Israel, we are now Israeli people. We marry each other regardless of the fact of wherever our parents or grandparents came from. And we constituted a new nation with a new awareness, with a new psyche of Israeli Jews, which is in many aspects different from the Goldstein thinking as we had until the state was established. And this is why I think it is a miracle, because so many profound changes within such a short time, which happened to the Jewish people. And don't forget that many of us came from the ashes of Europe. Ben Gurion once described the Israelis of that time as, he said in Hebrew, avak adam, human dust, who all over the world without even the ability to speak to each other because they didn't have a common language. And now make a state out of them, make an army out of them, an army which can face 6 Arab armies armed to their teeth, which invaded Israel one single day after it declared its independence in May 1948. And if this is not a miracle, I don't know what miracle is, Rabbi Golub.
You did very well, Mordechai. Thank you, and I want to say to you, Yom Huledet Sameach, happy birthday to you too.
Thank you
not,
so
not,
much.
not only because you feel it is your birthday, you have done much to make the state of Israel what it is today. So thank you, Mordechai. I will see you very soon
Thank you.
back here in the studio.
Thanks to JBS.
Thank you, my friend. We're going to stay on our phones right now, and I have the pleasure of welcoming another one of my favorite people and a profound lover of Israel. Former chairman of the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations, Alan Solo. Alan, thank you for joining us.
Mark, it's such a great evening to be with you.
It's a great evening. I'm here with Abe Foxman and Jerry Silverman and Brooke Goldstein and Thane Rosenbaum. And we've been having a very good time. We'd love to have you in studio, but since you're on the phone from Chicago, tell me, what's the 70th birthday mean to you, Alan?
Well, Israel really reflects in many ways kind of a rebirth of the Jewish people, and it is given all of us who have had this privilege of living in this last 70 years the ability to have a place that we can call home, that we can relate to in a special way, in a unique way, and it really has pulled the Jewish people from around the globe together with a single focus in support of Israel, and that has been, for me and for the guests of yours who are in the studio, much of our life's work. So it's hard to imagine for us, somebody my age, I'm going to be 64 shortly. Sorry about that, Abe. And I haven't lived
You'll catch up.
a day of my life without the state of Israel.
God willing.
And so it's hard to imagine what life would be like for somebody like me or for my family without the existence of this wonderful gift.
That is wonderful. One more question, Alan. I want one special memory. All the times you've been in Israel, all the things you've done for Israel, give me one memory that stays with you and gives you warmth.
Oh, it's very hard to pick a single one, and it would be easy to pick, some time that I've been there with somebody important like Prime Minister or the Pope. But I think what really resonates with me are the times that I've spent there with people who have become close personal friends through many visits over the years, and being with friends of ours who live in the area of Lachish, which is a beautiful area, kind of in the northern Negev, regular, common folks with ordinary jobs who grew up in Israel, raised their families in Israel. There isn't anything that distinguishes them from any other citizen in Israel, but that's what I love about them, that they represent the true spirit of Jewish life, people who are keeping the dream and kept the dream alive of Jews returning to our homeland. And so when I think about Israel and I think about what my warmest thoughts of Israel are, I think of those types of people, my friends who I've just been privileged to spend time with when I'm there. And often when I go there for political reasons or business reasons, if I have a day or a half a day, the one thing I try to do when I'm there is jump in a car and go see my friends in the countryside.
Well, that is wonderful, and it's interesting. It's all about people, Alan, and you've done much in that area yourself. I am so grateful for all the time you give me. I wish you kol tuv v'hatzlacha, and I will chase you, and we'll talk soon.
Very good. Happy
Be well.
birthday to everybody.
Thank you. One more, waiting on our line right now. One of the strongest voices in defense of the state of Israel, also in basically the entire Jewish world, and somewhat controversial, but always honest and forthright, and someone who has a lot to say about what Jewish life is and Israeli life is today. He's the national president of the Zionist Organization of America, ZOA, Mort Klein. Mort, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, it's great to be with you, Rabbi, and you say I'm controversial. It's only if you believe truth is controversial.
Okay, fair enough.
Not a political position, but go ahead.
Fair enough. It was not meant in any way as a criticism. I find you again a courageous voice, and I always love to give you an opportunity to appear on JBS. Okay,
thank you.
So Mort, what's it mean to you, Israel turning 70?
This to me really means this is the promise of the Torah, of the Bible, of God coming true, where He gave us a homeland in the Bible over 3,000 years ago, maybe 5,000 years ago, depending on how you look at it. And we had a homeland for a while, we lost it, and who would believe that a people who had wandered all over the world, who was weak with no power, no real influence, would come back and reestablish a state after the Holocaust, when we were totally decimated, with minimal arms, where even America had an arms embargo against Israel. And yet we're able to fight off 6 Arab nations, armed and trained, and develop a state. This is such a miracle that it was established, such a miracle that we're still here 70 years later. I attribute this to God Almighty, who has promised us this, and unlike politicians, God keeps his promises.
All right, Mort, I want you to tell me, what would you wish today for the state of Israel, and what do you wish American Jewry understood better about the state of Israel?
Look, I wish American Jewry, and actually America, the world, understands the truth of the Arab-Islamic war against Israel, and the West, frankly. To understand this is not a war of the Arabs against Israel because of land, because of borders. I want the world to understand, and American Jews to understand, especially the J Streeters to understand, who are really anti-Israel, that this is not about borders, not about land. The Arabs won't accept Israel within any borders. They've been offered a state, the Arabs, in 37, 48, and in 2000, 2001, 2008, 5 times. They rejected every time without counteroffers, because this is all about Israel's destruction. They have to understand this. That's why no concessions that have been made work, because their goal is all of Israel itself. I'd like them to understand that. And I really get frustrated when people say, well, Israel isn't perfect. You know, nobody's perfect, no country's perfect, but you never hear anyone saying Italy's not perfect, France is not perfect, Jordan's not perfect. We only say this about Israel, which is really closer to perfection than maybe most countries in the world. So I'd like people to appreciate Israel and praise Israel and stop apologizing for Israel, because it's not an accurate thing to do.
Mort Klein, I thank you for making time for me always, and I wish you kol tuv v'hatzlacha. This also in some way is your birthday. Mazal tov. We will speak soon.
Amen. Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. Okay, Abe, you heard a number of people speak. Any thought come to your mind as you heard?
I go back to what I said earlier. The beauty of it, you know, it's you don't have to agree with these people on all kinds of things, and yet tonight we're one. We're one family. We talk with one voice. We talk of the praise of Israel, of the miracle of Israel, the blessing of Israel. And to me, again, I say, you know, we know each other long enough, I don't have to praise you, but it is. It's part of the magic of what you are in the show does, is that it enables people who would not sit and break bread together, but on the occasion that you invite them to join and come together. And everybody said in their own tone, out of their own Weltanschauung, how they see this miracle.
Yes.
And it's not the same,
Yes.
and yet it came together as one celebration of this miracle of
That is
Israel.
again, lovely of you to say. You have the final comment here, this segment. Any thoughts you have as you've heard, you know, Thane and Brooke and Abe and some of the people that we played?
Well, first of all, it is really a testament to JBS and to you to really have the great people I'm surrounded by and listening to great people. And to me, it's not the words they say, it's how they're saying it. Mm-hmm. It's the passion, it's the commitment. Israel is a partnership. I listened 2 days ago to the 1950 UJA appeal done by Charlton Heston. And again, it's not the words. We all together, you know, I'm proud to represent federations, but we all together, this is all a partnership. And we have to remember this partnership is what has got us here, and this partnership has to remain strong and fluid, and we have to remember it's family. And what I heard from everyone is a sense of family.
I love that. That's a perfect way to end this segment. Thane and Brooke are going to stay with me. I thank the two of you. You know I love you both so much, and it's been wonderful to be able to have you sitting on this couch for so long and sharing this evening with the JBS audience. You will always have a home here. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Hag Sameach.
We're going to begin part 4 in just a moment, but first, this is Israel's 70th birthday. We've prepared for you a video of 70 of what we believe are the most influential people who helped to create what today is the modern state of Israel. I hope you recognize many of the faces you're about to see on JBS, and then we'll continue.